Welcome into Road to the Draft. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. Our first one of these of the year. We always love these.
We're just turning onto the road.
Yes, we've entered the on-ramp.
Yes.
We are here. We are at the beginning of our journey. We got our snacks, we got our drinks, and we have a lot of players to talk about over these next few weeks. We basically, each year do this. We break down a few prospects that we feel like might fit the Bucs' needs, talk about how many of them we might see, especially in those early round, first round-ish picks.
Yeah.
We have three names today. Two of the three names, I feel like their parents named them for their positions. So we're going to start with that because it's great. Edge, Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
I love that name.
So as we go down this winding road to the draft, there's going to be things that happen like the combine and pro days that will probably change our ways of thinking a little bit. And where we usually start as we're turning on this road with our snacks and drinks is what are the early mock drafts all saying? What do people think early on in the process that the Bucs might be interested in? And one of them is an edge rusher, and I've probably seen this name, Chop Robinson from Penn State, on more mock drafts in the last week and a half than any other name. I guess he's just falling to the right spot in the draft, and then people think the Bucs would be interested in an edge, which makes sense to me. Even our own Brianna Dixon, her mock draft that went up today, picked Chop Robinson. So his numbers weren't off the chart, but the best thing about Chop Robinson is he has an insanely quick first step. And you know that coaches are going to look beyond the numbers and go, oh, I can work with that, right? So he's got the tools. He would be an interesting pick. It's a class of edge rushers that doesn't have like a Josh Allen or somebody that you might think might go first overall, but there's enough depth there of interesting guys that there should be somebody available towards the back end of the first round, and as the mock drafters seem to think, that guy is likely to be Chop Robinson. And that is a great name for an edge rusher.
It's phenomenal. So I'm, of course, rooting for this immediately because as our purposes, this is what I care about are all these off the field
I'm
things.
not sure you can give the credit to the parents, though, because that's not his actual first name. It's a
That's
nickname.
Fair. It's a nickname, but we'll accept it.
Maybe
We'll
they gave him the
accept it.
nickname. Who
Maybe
knows?
they did. So also, I know this is what's interesting is where we do this and before free agency has officially happened, so that always changes your needs, you know, what you think the team is going to want. But another position that people have mocked the Bucs a lot is wide receiver.
Yes.
So tell us one of these names for wide receiver.
Well, the one that I picked out was Brian Thomas of LSU, because if you look at a lot of mock drafts, he's a guy that's more likely to be available towards the end of the round rather than his teammate from LSU, Malik Neighbors. The guy from, well, Marvin Harrison, of course, from junior from Ohio State, and then Rome Odunze from Oregon State, one of those two. Those are all considered guys that might go in the top 10. But then there's a bunch of other, like I've said before, there's hardly ever a weak receiver class anymore just because the state of offenses in the college ranks. And so there are all kinds of receivers available. Brian Robinson probably doesn't get as much attention because his teammate is Malik Neighbors, and his quarterback might be a top 5 pick, but he's a very interesting prospect. He's got the size at 6'4" and 205, but also really, really good speed. And you can see what this analyst who covers Alabama thought about him when he was watching him at the Senior Bowl. So there's a lot to like about Brian Thomas. I think in some years he could go a little bit higher, but it's just a very nice receiver draft class. And like you said, free agency could change how much the Buccaneers are interested in a receiver. It doesn't hurt to add another really good one, especially for down the road a little bit, because your main guys are getting up there a little bit.
Yeah, you always
still
want
playing
some depth.
fantastically, but
Of course. And then, of course, our final one we're going to talk about, a lot of people have mocked some interior offensive linemen to the Bucs, and again, with the great name, Jackson Powers Johnson, which either he was going to be an offensive lineman or a superhero. So tell me your thoughts about this guy.
Yeah, that's the guy from Oregon. He's huge. He played center for them, and I think he could handle that position in the NFL. They also looked at him at guard in the Senior Bowl, and he was, apparently, I wasn't there, but everything I read, he was out of his mind dominant throughout the Senior Bowl week. And you can see on this little clip of him there, look at his offensive line coach. So if you can't tell for sure how well he did on this rep, look how fired up the O-line coach is. Yeah. So he obviously did very, very well.
That's always what I love watching with these drills. I'm like, I think that was good, and then you look at the coach, you're like, yep.
I mean, look,
good.
the guy's like 6'4", 335 pounds, and look how smoothly he was moving.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess he was in the early part of that clip there.
It's not that guy? I don't know. That would have been quite a
That would have been
threat.
impressive. Yeah. And you know, the Bucs, they have all of their starter. Well, Aaron Stinney, who finished the season as the starter at left guard, is a free agent, so you may need some interior line help there. Robert Hainsey is a very flexible guy. He's started center the last 2 years, but could play guard. This guy, Jackson Powers-Johnson, could probably play either position, so you'd have some flexibility to decide what's your best 5 and where do you put them. So I do think an interior offensive lineman is a possibility for the Bucs in the first round, and I just wanted to point out this guy because he's really good.
That's great. I love it. All right, well, that is going to do it for us on this first edition of Road to the Draft. Again, join us back. We'll be miles down the road each week, taking a new exit. How much longer can we do this metaphor, you think?
We're going
for it the whole rest of the time.
Yes.
So come back for our terrible metaphor and more potential
We're
picks
use
for
Google
us
Maps
on our next Road to the Draft.